So, thank you to the online community for dropping in and checking out another segment of Str8 No Chaser, where I talk sports and culture for fans, for people, with fans, with the people. Today, we're going to take a little bit of a pivot in terms of our discussion because right now our nation is undergoing a huge internal process based off of what's happened with the young man that was murdered in Minneapolis. Right now, the country is topsy turvy, and people are feeling all types of emotions. People want to be able to express themselves, but more importantly, they want to be able to have solutions in terms of how we can move forward as a country. So I had one group earlier that was really passionate about what it is that they wanted to do and how they wanted to be able to communicate that and where we're at and how to move forward. But I've also got another group here, just as passionate, another diverse group. So I think they've got some good input, some good ideas. I'm excited for them to share with you. But before we get started, you know how we do is customary. If you have a favorite libation, we're going to get into it. Str8 No Chaser. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Charlie, I like the solo cup.
Thank you.
So let me start off. Let me start off with Charlie. Charlie, kind of, what's the pulse? Where are you at in what's going on, and what's the pulse of the community that you're from? And you don't mind sharing what community or what area?
No, not at all. Not at all. So I'm first generation Mexican, born and raised in Chicago. Originally from the South Side. My parents moved to the North Side. Still have family in Cicero. I do have family, a lot of family in Cicero, very close family. My sister and my brother-in-law, my nieces, my nephews all live in Cicero. So it got out of hand in the sense of kind of thinking about it not too long ago, about actually on Tuesday, 90-degree weather day, was supposed to get together with family. And it was kind of scary where, when I called up my nephew to see if he was coming over, and he told me that they were not going to leave the house because of the shootings from Monday night in the Cicero area. And they didn't want to take the chance because he has his 4-year-old daughter and my other little nieces and nephews. So I wasn't able to see my family on Tuesday, which was kind of a bummer because I was looking forward to seeing them. So where I'm coming from that is basically that. I'm the first in my family to do a lot of things. First in my family to graduate college. First in my family to kind of basically make it, as they say. So I have that perspective, but I also have the perspective of what I've seen, because I grew up kind of like, I'm not going to say, the hood or anything like that, but I grew up back when, Bucktown was not as beautiful as it is now. When Bucktown was not the safest area, but it was more of kind of before it was the up and coming area or the place to live in Chicago. Before, where it was, it was not the best neighborhood, to be in. That's where I grew up. I grew up in Bucktown, before it was Bucktown. Back, before when Wicker Park, which is great now, used to be called Liquor Park, where you saw, all the broken bottles, homeless people, things of that nature that obviously has not, now due to gentrification, obviously no longer exists. So that's kind of my background. A lot of street smart, seen pretty much everything that you can think of. Again, I've also been discriminated against for being Mexican. I've been told go back to where you're come from. Just for being in the grocery store in a white neighborhood with my mother of all people. So I've pretty much have seen the gamut.
So kind of, what's the pulse of the community that you're in now? Kind of.
A lot of people are scared. A lot of people don't know what to do. A lot of people are worried if what's going to happen. Should they stay? And it's bad enough that we're dealing with the global pandemic of staying home, and right when it's about to ease up a little bit and you get to go enjoy a restaurant in an outdoor seating area. Now you have to think twice about doing that. But the pulse from the community where I'm at is it's a very suburban style community. People are scared. People don't know what to expect, and people are more, I would say on edge, but to protect their community.
Okay. And that seems to be kind of a recurring theme that I'm hearing, but I don't want to speak for everyone. I'm going to go Joey, Kat, and then Kenny. So Joey, kind of what's the, kind of where are you at with it? What community are you in, and what's the pulse of that community? What does that feel like?
Yeah. So, I come from the South. I was raised in Texas, Dallas. Moved up to Chicago 10 years ago. Lived in Lincoln Park. Everything was, hunky-dory. I moved to Logan Square, Irving Park area, about 2-3 years ago. And things were still good. This is frightening to say the least, like what is actually going on right now. You know, it's something different than I've ever experienced. But that being said, nationwide, it's the same. You know, my friends in Dallas, Denton, Texas, you know, are experiencing a lot of pain from this as well. And, you know, it's it's one of those that's, you know, it's hard to grapple with as a kid from my situation, because, you know, I can't really empathize the same way or at the same level,
Okay.
because you know I've done some, you know, nefarious things in my past, but I'm not a person of color by any stretch. And, you know, I don't, you know, I don't have a, like, you know, I don't have a get out of jail free card, but I kind of do. Right. And so it's really, I think the whole thing that's going on right now that has opened up my eyes is there is serious like injustice that's happening, that's really like cut and dry.
Absolutely.
And I have to deal with friends and family that I respect and love, that aren't getting it yet. And you know, so I mean that's the hardest part. But then also like here in Logan Square, you know, I went out to have a cigarette on the balcony at 9 o'clock Sunday night, and it was helicopters, gunshots, and sirens. You know, so you know, you got to deal with the community the way the community is, but you know, you also got to deal with the, you know, how you feel about the whole situation.
So you personally, how are you feeling? How are you coping?
Therapy, first and foremost. You know, I struggle with dealing with the fact that family members and close friends of mine are making excuses for something that I consider clear, you know, obvious as day. And I don't know, honestly, I don't know what to do, right? Like, you know, I'm not going to disown them. I'm always going to love, but I, I'm also not going to agree with them at all. And, you know, I'm not going to get on like a Facebook battle with them either.
Great point. Because I do want to come back to that when we talk about hard asks and solutions on how to move forward, because I think you hit on something that is, you have people that are in your circle, or that you are in contact with, that you may not necessarily agree with, and they're not able to see this, even though in your opinion it's relatively cut and dry. So we're going to come back to that. I think that's a great point. Kat, how about you?
Well, I am, I'm in the suburbs, the little lily white suburbs here in Lisle, but surrounding Naperville and Wheaton. So it's a different aspect out here. People are not quite as scared because, I mean, we go out and we do our shopping and do whatever, but it's still affecting people out here because, you know, all of our stores are closed at night, just like they are everywhere else. There's police standing in front of them. Naperville had a not so great protest in the evening, as far as they're concerned. And so in Wheaton had one today, and I'm not even positive how it went, but the protesting out here has been, for the most part, fairly tame. So I don't think it's affecting people as much out here as it should be. I think that it needs to be affecting people more. And I don't think people are quite as riled up about it. But what I deal with mostly is I live in a very Republican area, and a lot of my friends on Facebook are, you know, upset about the fact, and that I kind of like with Joey, they don't understand. They are coming to a grip with it being a black thing versus a police thing, and that, you know, why did everybody just jump to the fact that, you know, it was because he was Black and not just because the police was an asshole. And so those are the things that I'm trying to deal with out here, because I feel like people aren't understanding what the protests are really about.
Okay. And having lived in that area, having lived in the west suburbs, northwest suburbs, I can see where there's a disconnect because their interaction and level of engagement with a member of law enforcement or pieces of legislation that are passed doesn't necessarily impact their day-to-day function. So for them, their reality is different from the reality of the individuals that they're seeing, not only at the hands of such abusive powers, but then also just in general, there's a disconnect because the officer that may have done XYZ, well, he can't be like that because that's also Officer XYZ, and he's my drinking buddy. We play darts. So it's really difficult sometimes for them to fathom that individual in that.
And I have a bit of a different experience because I worked in an area that isn't like this.
Yeah.
And so I've dealt, I've seen what people have had to go through on a more personal level. And as a white person, it was very hard. And this is where I struggle on how to make a difference, is because I struggled in that community because nobody wanted to trust me, with not necessarily against, understandably so. I understand why it took me so long to build a lot of trust in there, but it made it more difficult to help.
Okay.
And I did get threatened quite a bit. So there was that.
I think I may know what experience you're talking about. You may be referring to. So, but I think that. Yeah, I think that's a good point to bring up, and that's why I like the diversity, or want to have the diversity in this conversation, because there is different experiences, different areas, but then also being able to bounce off of one another, to be able to understand, okay, what can we do from our individual perspectives, so we're not operating in a silo to kind of help move this forward as a group. But I don't want to get off track. Ken, tell me, I know you've been around. Kind of where are you at, and what's the pulse of the community that you're in?
Well, Stan, I grew up in Harvard, a community that was, when I was little, it was probably predominantly 65% Black, 35% white.
Okay.
And then it became predominantly Black, but I went to a high school out of district that when I went to Thornridge High School, it was 70% white. Most of the only Black kids were athletes at Thornridge. Well, and and now seeing what's going on, I live out in Madison Park Forest. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit different out here. None of the looting actually got out here, but stores are closed down, and I've had conversations with people I work with, and hey, I'm all about protests. Okay. Here's my thing though. In a situation where you have systematic racism, when it's like when you shake up a bottle of pop. Take the top off, it's gonna go everywhere. You can't control it. Now you shook it up and took the top off.
Great point.
So I'm against stealing, first and foremost. But you can't control, a situation that's uncontrollable. That's the sad part about it. The situation has become an uncontrollable situation. You can't put barriers on a situation when you have so many people out of control. That's the sad part to it. It should be there's not gonna be any good direction when there's no proper planning. And when people run off emotions, you don't get proper planning. But you can't tell people not to run off emotion. Emotion is a part of everyone's being. Everyone cannot tell you how they would react to a certain situation. And that's the bad part. In a situation like this, nobody's there to sit around and tell you how to plan and go about it. So it just happens. And when things just happen, like they said, shit happens.
And I think you hit it right on the head. It was the It was the gunpowder that was sitting there, and everybody knew it was in the corner, and you tried to avoid it because you know what? It was that uneasy. Oh, you know what? Let me take a couple of steps over here so I can avoid it. But one day somebody walked by and said, you know what? Fuck it, and drop the match.
There you go. I'm just gonna light it on fire.
And maybe they didn't. And it's kind of one of those things like if you've ever seen the Eddie Murphy Delirious when he drops the match. Now that's a fire. You know, you didn't realize that it was going to
get your eyebrows burned off.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know, it's unfortunate because as I stated earlier, it feels like it's rinse and repeat. I've said this. You can take those pictures, put them in black and white, and caption 1960, 1950, and it would still feel the same.
Well, yes. So if you don't mind me jumping in real quick,
yeah, absolutely.
This is the worst I've ever seen it.
I agree.
And it is the most active I've ever seen it. And the way I explained it to my mother, right, was, you know, when a child isn't being listened to, you know, whether he's doing the wrong thing or not, if he's not being listened to, what's he going to do? He's going to break stuff. He's going to get your attention.
He's going to throw a tantrum.
Yeah, and that's what's going on right now, and that's what people don't realize. Like, you can call looters and like, I'm not for that. You know, I'm for the biblical thing. We don't burn our house to the ground. We make our house a fortress for those that are struggling to you know, get, you know, like, you know, to shelter in, right? Like, I'm 100% for that, but we've been doing that for so damn long, and I'm only 35 years old, and I'm saying that, you know what I mean? Like, exactly. Like, I mean, like, I've seen this happen. We've had cell phones, smartphones for 15 years, and so we're finally seeing, you know, what's actually happening on the ground, and this has been happening forever. And they're pissed off. They're pissed off, and nobody's listening to them. And so it, you know, looting and rioting and burning shit to the ground. Yeah, I don't support that. But if that's what it takes to get somebody to actually listen, that's what it takes.
I just think, though, to your point, Joe, I agree with you on a couple things there. But I think a lot of it also, yeah, that's the whole tantrum thing. I agree that it's probably what it is, like Kathy said. A lot of it also has to do with, you know, again, the way social media plays into effect. I mean, you know what I mean?
Sure.
I mean, yes, if we go back to the 90s and we look at the LA riots and everything that happened with Rodney King and that situation, you know, how much longer would it have gone if social media was what it is now, if we had that back then? You know, would have gone longer, would have gone, you know, but again, I'm all for the right of people to protesting and in a peaceful way to be able to get their idea across. What I'm not for is for opportunists, you know, to come and do this and, you know, and all of a sudden it becomes in the name of someone who was murdered, you know, for them to be able to turn things around and be able to, you know, justify, oh, well, I need to, you know, break into stores or burn stores in my community or other communities because of the sake of this murdered individual.
Yeah,
I mean, that to me makes no sense.
It's the burning the house to the ground mentality, and you're absolutely right. The King riots, if it would have been this day and age, would have been crazy like this. Well, you know.
Well, they were.
I'm going to challenge. Here's the reason why I'm going to challenge that thought. I can't speak specifically if it's social media that's perpetuated this, or if this is coming on the tail end of the gentleman in Georgia that was killed. You have Breonna Taylor that was killed. So these are back to back.
It was just the final straw.
I agree.
You know, it was the final straw. At every protest or revolution or whatever you want to call it has a breaking point.
Right.
That scene that everybody across these United States caught on TV of a man being murdered on TV, and that's what it was, a murder on TV.
I agree with you.
It was the final straw. I mean, and now you got some people who believe that what they're doing, they consider it, I've heard and talked to people, they consider they're destroying the economy. And that's their protest. We're going to destroy the United States economy. And I don't know if I'm not one of those historical people that say if it'll work or if it doesn't. But their ideology is they're going to destroy the United States economy, which and they're doing it. If that was what they're trying to accomplish, they're pretty close to it. Because coming off of the pandemic and everything and the economy being messed up, and now you've actually put all type of corporate, stores and everything in a bind. Yeah, you hitting the economy where you wanted to hit them. Now, I don't know if it's going to backfire or not.
I think it's actually, Ken, I agree with you on that, but I think it has to do a lot with two words of this generation. And those two words are instant gratification. Like a lot of people need that instant gratification because of, like you said, Ken, it was a murder on TV, but the time that it took to arrest this officer, for the time that it took him to be brought up on charges, when you saw it happening, it was cut and dry, like Joe said, it was a murder. George Floyd was murdered on national TV. When,
yes.
I'm sorry, if you don't, regardless of who you are, once someone tells you whether, you have to detain, police, if you're a cop, detain the suspect, but if a suspect tells you that they can't breathe, and that they're being hurt, yes, some might be able just to say it just to have the knee get off, but again, the knee is, on the neck.
Well, his hands were in his pocket.
Right, exactly.
Casual. It was a casual type of thing for him.
Yeah. They were all walking around with their hands in their pocket. And that's the one thing I noticed the most was how much do you have to fight a guy when your hands are in your pocket and you're just casually shooting the breeze with each other?
And moreover, like you guys said, it was so casual. I don't ever want to watch that video again. It sickens me. But it was, 8 minutes and 54 seconds of somebody casually putting his knee on a person's throat, while there were multiple requests for, not only from the victim, George Floyd, but from the other people that should also be charged. They're like, we should probably lay him on his side. And this guy just sat with his hands in his pockets and he stared at the camera like an asshole. And there are people in this country, and this is part of the reason I wanted to be involved in this podcast, is because there are people that I know and love and respect that are, I don't know if they're okay with that, but they're trying to justify that. And it's not justifiable. It's bullshit.
So I want to move the conversation a little bit away from that because I think we've all seen the video. I think we all, and I'll be the first to tell you, I watched maybe 15, 20 seconds of it. I couldn't watch anymore. I knew the outcome. Again, for me, it was rinse and repeat. I didn't need to see another person of color abused, in this instance, murdered, because I've seen what it looks like. I know it looks like just a different face, maybe a little bit different circumstance. So we've all seen the video. I want to move the conversation a little bit away from that. And I want to talk about I just had a quick thought, and then we'll move the conversation in a different direction. One of the things that I've heard here, and I've also seen on social media, is when people that don't come from that situation or aren't able to identify with that situation, you hear but. One of the things that's difficult for me, and that is people trying to find a way to justify what happened. But we don't know what happened before. All those types of things, that's the difficult thing. That's what's difficult for me to digest. Because regardless of what happened, at that point he was subdued, whether waiting for transport, whatever the next step was, he was not posing an imminent threat.
Right, not posing.
That's the difficult part for me. So when people say, "Oh, it's unfortunate, but," or I can't condemn them because I don't know the entire story. But that's the difficult part for me, because at that point there is no but, and it makes me.
I agree.
And that's where the lack of empathy comes in, because at that point, that person was not posing a threat, and the situation was under control. And I've also said this: the law of survival supersedes any law on books. So, for example, and let me explain what I'm saying. If I am detained and I am face down, and you have your knee on my neck or my chest, compressing my rib cage, my diaphragm, and I can't breathe, I am going to move, because what? I am trying to survive. I am trying to get oxygen, air. So the law of survival dictates, hey, I may move, I may need to do whatever it is, because guess what? I can't breathe. So when I hear people say, well, if you look at him, he was still moving. Well, guess what? When he stopped moving, he was unconscious and then pronounced dead at the hospital.
Well, Stan,
in that situation, you really can't really identify.
He wasn't. If you notice, he wasn't really moving. He was more so asking for relief, and that's the fact of that's a guy who actually believes that there is still humanity. So he's pleading to the officer's humanity and saying, "I can't breathe. Can I have some water?"
No.
That's pleading to somebody who you assume has humanity, but no longer has humanity for human life.
Ken, on top of that, he was crying out for his mother, who had been dead for 2 years.
Exactly.
He was crying for his mama, a grown-ass man crying for his mama that was dead, because he knew it was his time. It was horrifying.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrifying.
But it's interesting, because like Ken said, he wasn't really fighting them.
He wasn't fighting, but you could see.
But I mean, even to breathe, but he wasn't really doing it that much. And there's a video going around on Facebook of a group of police officers that were trying to keep control of a mentally handicapped white man. Okay. And they were doing something similar that they were doing to George Floyd. And they were on his back, 2 police officers on his back. And that was the difference. It was almost as if George Floyd knew better to fight them or even try to move around, because this other man was trying to breathe and he was fighting for his survival. And they were laughing at him the whole entire time, saying, and then when he stopped moving, they were laughing, thinking he fell asleep, until the paramedics told him in the ambulance that he had died. That was when it hit them. And so it was as if, and maybe he didn't know better, but I always feel that, and some of my friends, and places that I worked, they're trained from birth. Your parents have told you how to handle police officers, because you actually have to act differently when you're approached by a police officer than I do being white. Correct. Which is horribly sad and unbelievable, but true. And so he didn't struggle with them very much, and that's made it even worse. What happened?
So pivoting away from that, because I think you all are hitting it on the head. We are at a tipping point where it's already starting to go sideways. I'm seeing a lot of ground zero. When I say ground zero, meaning people that are on the front lines. I'm getting a lot of feedback and dialogue from people that are out there that now they're members of law enforcement that are going above, taking things to extremes now, because there may be a level of pressure, whatever the case may be. They are now taking it, what's perceived as unnecessary, in terms of how they're dealing with protesters, how they're dealing with individuals.
It's fire on both sides.
Yeah, there's definitely issues on both sides of the ledger. And I will say this, first and foremost, I don't know how it is, and this is one of the things that I really didn't get a lot of feedback from you guys. But I live in the southeast suburbs, on the Illinois-Indiana border. And there was looting in the area that I live in. So I live roughly 5 minutes from River Oaks Mall, which is a larger mall out here. the landings area, all of that was just completely vandalized. They were going toward Indiana. They basically blocked it off so people from Illinois couldn't come onto the Indiana
Right.
side. You know, which really sucks because that's where I get my gas and groceries. It's cheaper. You know, that's another conversation for Str8 No Chaser. You know, prices. But nonetheless, I am not in favor of it. I literally saw people break into a pawn shop, and then there were cars literally that said, "Oh, like almost like, oh, wait a minute." They broke into the pawn shop, do U-turns, pull up, back their cars in, and just grabbing items, running in and grabbing items. Some of the other stores. So to your point, there were opportunists that really took advantage of the situation. I do not condone that at all because that serves no purpose.
And it's making the situation worse and taking away from what the point is.
I agree.
And Stan, I'll say, you know, Kat, I agree with you 100%. You know, as far as that situation goes, a buddy of mine that just started watching this, you know, he had a comment, you know, we've got to change the way police are policed. The current system is broken, and I agree with that. But what I've seen out of this, like I said, this is the biggest movement that I've seen as you know, a 35-year-old kid. I've seen police kneel. I've seen police march in these protests.
Absolutely.
You know, I've seen them cross that blue line and say, this is fucked up, and we've got to stop doing this, and we have to interact with our community again. You know, Camden, New Jersey, Baltimore, Maryland, Chicago, Illinois, hopefully, right? Like, but that's what it's going to take, you know, and that's what it's going to take to get them to stop turning around and looting the pawn shop. You know, like let the cop do his job, but also trust the cop.
Well, I think that's a good segue. That's a great point, a good segue, because now, I mean, again, we all are aware of the issues that are out there. Again, this is rinse and repeat. But I think that right now, because everybody in the country is aware of what's going on, we've got the country. When I say we, meaning community people have got the attention. The world is watching. We are at the crossroads where we can really, and when I say we, meaning people, can make a difference. And I want to move away from the conversation of, okay, this is the problem, and this is, I don't want to say the blame game, but these are the issues that we're dealing with. But what are some solutions? You know, how can we rectify the situation? And again, understand that it may take a couple of generations because this didn't just happen on our watch. But what are some things that, from a hard ask standpoint, to say, wow, you know what? If I were in the driver's seat, if I was sitting with my legislator, excuse me, what are some things that I would want to say, hey, you know what? I want to improve community.
You need a police brutality law passed, man. You got to have a police brutality law passed. Whereas you had a police brutality law that said first degree police brutality, second degree, or third degree. And this bill got passed, and you'd have to focus on implementing it in the police academy and trainings, whereas these guys would know there are penalties for certain acts. You may also get guys who, hate to say it, but that are being police officers for the wrong reason, may not decide to go into law enforcement because they can't walk around all day with their foot up somebody's ass because they're police officers. You know, so first and foremost, you need a police brutality law passed so these guys have an understanding. You start locking guys up, police officers up, oh, it's gonna be some changes on about how you go about doing your job. That's any job. If they start putting in place rules that if you break, you get fired, and in their case, you get 25 to 30 years in jail, oh, you would definitely start thinking about how you handle citizens, not just black citizens, but citizens, period.
Yep.
Great point.
So police brutality, but people gotta understand, police brutality is not just a black thing. Police brutality is a thing.
Amen.
Right?
Amen. Amen.
You know, now we tend to see what they want you to see, the police brutality amongst black people, but there's white people that get police brutality brought upon them. I need a police brutality law so you can just crack down on police brutality in general.
So
now, I think that's the first step.
So like on a jump off point from what you just said, Ken, is, you know, I don't have a college degree, right? I never finished college. I went to college for a long time. I never finished. I can't be a teacher. I can't be a school teacher because I don't have a college degree. I could be a Chicago police officer.
Exactly.
If I went through that training, and school teachers ain't allowed to use or ain't allowed to carry guns. You know, they're not allowed the same kind of immunity, you know, that police officers have. And I have utmost respect for police officers until they step over the boundary and they do shit that's unwarranted, right? And so it's like, you know, maybe we should require some sort of vocational or college training rather than the police academy, you know,
or both.
In the bigger picture, and to Joey, to kind of piggyback what Joey was saying, I think, and Ken as well, this is not a top-down legislature, you know, roll downhill, you know, to the police station. I think it's actually a bottom-up situation where we start with the police and then expand to the legislature. Do I agree with Ken about, you know, a police brutality law? Absolutely. I mean, I think we're all of us here are, you know, professionals, and, you know, what is it, you know, what happens at our jobs if you don't do what you're supposed to do? You get fired. You know, three strike rule. You know, verbal warning, written warning, and you're out.
The first time I were to hit a kid, I wouldn't get a second chance.
Amen.
Well, there you go. So I think in this same scenario, you know, like I said, from the bottom up, it all starts with the training, you know, obviously. And so we have to keep that in mind, you know, everything evolves, you know, we as a society, we evolve. You know, what we were doing 5 years ago, obviously there have been improvements in every aspect of our lives from 5 years ago. So, you know, do we need to do that? Does it take, you know, maybe one generation of police officers, 2 generations of police officers to implement some changes that, you know, that need to be, you know, to be implemented? Yeah, maybe, you know, you implement a rule, or you implement, you know, a law that, you know, holds cops to a different standards, because technically they are held to a different standard, you know, than you and I. You know,
they definitely
a lot of stuff they get away with that normally the average citizen won't get away with because they have the badge. So I think a lot of them, you know, some of them, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of great police, a lot of good police, but, you know, just like everything else, just like everything in every profession, there's good people and bad people. Unfortunately, that's a sad fact.
Yeah.
But they have the badge. So I think a lot of them, you know.
So
I'm going to chime in with a couple points. The first point is the consistent thing that I'm hearing, not only on social media, but also just the individual conversations, as well as the initial group that I spoke with earlier, and that is police accountability. So that's a hard ask that we can, a solution that we can look at. Now, what that accountability looks like, it could be in the form someone mentioned that they're looking to have legislation for police, like a police accountability act. I'm sorry, a public servant accountability act. So it's not just law enforcement. It could be any public servant, because there's a lot of activity out there. So that's one piece. I know, Charlie, you just mentioned kind of like looking at what is the termination process, because I also understand that when you're dealing with law enforcement, you know, you may have unions to deal with, you may have other pieces to deal with, but what does the disciplinary process look like to ensure that you're able to support those officers that are doing their job correctly and properly, but then also weed out the officers that don't have the best intentions when they're put on their badge? So absolutely. I think one of the things that to look at is when you are dealing with, and again, I want to be solution oriented. Sometimes, and I spoke about this earlier, sometimes, as mentioned before, people, being a law enforcement officer, you can make a great career out of it. You know, you can talk about the pay or whatever the case it be, benefits, but you can make a career out of it. But sometimes, are we asking fish to climb a tree? Just because you're a good person doesn't make you good at your specific job.
No, amen to that.
I'm a good person. Yeah. I'm a good person. I can't go work at the Ford plant. I would make a terrible servant.
Well, no, but
as a nurse.
Hey, you might be all right, Stan. You could work for me. You might be all right.
I'll work for you.
no, but Stan, I will, like, I understand the fish tree argument that's going on right now, right? You know, a fish, you tell a fish to climb a tree, he's never going to be a success, right? But I don't feel like that is justifiable and as far as being a law enforcement officer. Like, be a decent fucking human being that is upholding the laws of this country. We signed a social contract when we came, to birth in America. That's what America stands for. It's not getting tear gassed outside of the White House so some fucking asshole can go walk to a church and hold up a Bible that he's never read before. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the same conversation. And there's a lot of people, I say a lot of people, but there's a good amount of people in law enforcement that are unfortunately unfit to be in law enforcement. There's a gigantic amount that are completely fit and they're doing a great job. I've seen so much good community, like in Camden, New Jersey, where it was, 48% down as far as crimes went from 2016 to 2019. Like there are good police that are out there in the neighborhood.
Joey, my only issue with your there are good cops out there and good police officers. I'm having a hard time with the good cop because they're never why are the good cops never paired with the bad cops? I never see the good cops around when the bad cops are,
I don't understand that either, my friend. I don't understand that either.
Yeah, that's the one thing that bothers me. Like, I agree. I know I have personal friends that are police officers. I mean, but they're not. It's like the good cops are never around when the bad
good cops paired together in good neighborhoods. Bad cops paired together in bad neighborhoods. No, you're absolutely right.
Or let me interject something real quick. And this is something that, and I don't have the answer, but this is just something to throw out there. Is it the personality and the persona of the quote unquote bad cop that's more dominant and domineering that subdues or overshadows the good cop? So for example, if you're paired with if you have an officer who's not, and here's the thing, law enforcement, they know, who's legit and who's not, who they want to work with, who they don't.
They know
all those things. But if they're paired with someone who's a quote unquote good cop, their personalities or their influence is that more dominant where the good cop is just like, hey, you know what? I just want to do my.
Hey, Stan, I think most of it is your good cops won't work with your bad cops, so you end up having the bad cops work with bad cops.
Okay. And again, I don't have that. I don't know. That's why I wanted to put that out there.
I give you a good analogy, Stan. It's like when we playing pickup. Hey, you don't want to be on the team with the guy that's the ball hog or the guy that's a bad teammate.
Right.
So you're gonna go pick a teammate that you can play with. Most of your good cops are gonna work with other good cops because they like, this guy's an asshole. I don't want to work with him.
Yeah.
So then he finds an asshole to work with him who doesn't think he's an asshole.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the time also it has to do with a lot of the personality of the individuals. Just like Ken, just like you said, when you play pickup, you know the guy's got an ego, the guy's going to be a ball hog. You can tell that right away by seeing him. I think that might be true for a lot of police officers because it's part of it. It's relevant in a lot of professions: doctors, lawyers, police officers, athletes. It's this God complex. That they think that some police officers think that they put on the badge and they think that all of a sudden that gives them superhuman powers or the right to be able to do certain things that they're not supposed to do. Another thing that I would say is going back to what could make things work. I don't know. I mean, I've been in professions where I had to do a rotation until I found the right fit of what I wanted to do for a job. How about you do that? How about you get certain classes, certain amount of police officers, and you rotate them, through the different areas, different districts, and until you see, which one is the better fit for them, how to help them, how to do certain things, and then maybe you try that. I don't, like I said, I don't know. Like, I don't have the answer to it either, but at the same time, there's definitely has to be a lot of change before anything gets better.
So I agree with Ken wholeheartedly, as far as, like throwing them through the ringer, putting them in the right place. There's a bipartisan bill going through right now because of all of this that's going to demilitarize the cops, which was an Obama era, executive order that got overturned recently.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're trying to legislate that. Like our cops don't need to have AR-15s to patrol the cities. What I think is most important is we spend a lot of the funds on weaponry and this, that, and the other on community outreach, because we've actually seen that that's effective. Like I said, Camden, New Jersey, 48% decrease in violent crimes since the police stopped going in with guns. Now they're sitting there, they're buying snacks, they're buying juices, playing basketball with the kids. I mean, that's the way it's got to be. Like we've got to teach people that cops aren't the bad guys. But it's so fucking hard to do that right now.
Right. So I think we also need to take the blinders off. I mean, work with other cities, find out what's been working for them. If you know that there's been a huge reduction in crime in a certain state, why don't find out what made that work? What made that possible?
Yeah.
Other countries in the UK, it's illegal to own a firearm. That'll never happen here because everybody loves their Second Amendment rights, obviously. But why did they implement that? That's the real question to ask in the UK. How did that work? What was the blowback, if there was any? When that first law became into effect in that country, how do we work it to where it becomes effective in the U.S. and without violating our Second Amendment rights to be able to to hold and right to bear arms, but at the same time, again, work with take the blinders off, because the world can be as big as you want it to be, or it can be as big as your neighborhood. I mean, that's just fact.
I also think that part of the dilemma, like with the fact that he had 18 different complaints against him, right, and not anything happened. Part of the problem is the union, and I'm going to just throw that out there. It's hard because I think that the whole idea of having laws or having guidelines that says, you did this, you broke this law. We don't have to decide whether it's first-degree murder, second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and figure out all the different problems and figure out what we're going to accuse you of, because we've set these laws against police officer brutality, and now you've violated it, and now we have a reason, and we don't have to worry about the union trying to keep you around.
No, for sure, it's a statute at this point. Like it's something that is universally, like, I think it should be a federal thing, right? Like the federal government needs to say, if you, like, we have body cameras. Like in Dallas, there were a couple of cops that turned their body cameras off and people died, Like if that happens, I mean, there needs to be a law against it, and there needs to be precedent for that.
I think you just it's the power that I think most police officers get, like with anybody, they get drunk with power. You just have too much power. Well, police officers like pull people over, and I can pull you over just because I can. I'm pulling you over. Don't ask me no questions. Just show me your driver's license and registration. I don't have to tell you why I pulled you over. I'm the police. Anybody with power gets drunk with power, and law enforcement the whole state of law enforcement, these people have become drunk with power.
So I agree, and I've got an experience that I can share, and it's a prime example. But I think we all know what the challenges are, and I think we've got some ideas and some thoughts in terms of what can be done, because right now it's bad, and I don't without any radical changes, I don't see any recovery. As a matter of fact, I see it getting worse. We may not have the looting and things like that in the street, but we are going to have worse police community relations than we've ever seen since the day. Definitely. So I think a couple hard asks that came out of this was one, looking at level of accountability, whether it's through legislation or department procedures. B, looking at kind of what training is involved, and when do we train them, whether it's in the academy or in the department. One of the things that I struggle with, and that is I look at, and I've used this example, you can go to any job and there is an operations manual, whether it's Target, whether it's a school district, whether it's law enforcement, but you really get your training from the person that you are paired with on the job. So if you go to Applebee's and they've got somebody learning to be a server, what do they say? Hey, my name is Stan, and Charlie's going to be training with me today. You can go to Ford, and you got somebody on the assembly line, and they're working at this particular station section. You are learning the ins and outs. Granted, you got one thing in the operator's manual or in your training, your formal training, but really what you learn is who you paired with and who's your kind of mentor, so to speak, on the job. And I think, and I feel, and I may be wrong, but I feel that in some instances, when you have officers, questionable officers, not all of them, but questionable officers, mentoring newer officers, it repeats the cycle of bad behavior. Because
isn't that the whole premise of that movie, Training Day?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. That's the whole premise of that movie.
And yet we still, we put that movie out there and then nobody did anything, and it's like, yay, all right. So now we're going to show you how this all folds out.
Yeah, so
because we know how it works.
Until we have a federal law, and it's got to be federal, because states aren't going to do this very quickly. Until we have a federal law that says if you do this, this, and this as a police officer, you're going to get in trouble for this, this, and this, and you're going to lose your badge.
I don't know about you guys, but if I did something wrong at my job 18 times, I would be fired 18 times.
Oh, dude, I've been fired 18 times.
Well, I think
as a teacher, there's very little leeway in mistakes that you're allowed to make.
Yeah. So kind of moving in that same direction. We talked about how to hold law enforcement accountable, but what can we do to bridge the gap between community and law enforcement? What can we do to bridge the gap to also, let me just say this too, to help deal with the PTSD and the trauma that these communities are suffering? Because it's not just the situations that they see on social media. It's not just the situations, that they may witness. It's what's happening to them or what's happening to their friends and family. Are there solutions or things that you can think of that will help bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community, and things that also will help deal with the trauma that these communities are dealing with? Because long after the cameras are gone and people on the streets, they still have to deal with the aftermath, or they still have to deal with that level of violence or that level of abuse. What are some solutions that you guys can think of to help move this forward?
I'm gonna put it real quick in capital letters. Therapy. Talking to people. Everybody has PTSD. Not everybody, but there's a good bit of us that do, from different situations. Kids from the South and West Side of Chicago have PTSD, and they ain't even 13 years old yet. You know what I mean? So you've got to be accountable for that, and just understand that you're gonna need to love them a little bit more, than normal. you know, and it goes back to that whole playing basketball, sharing snacks, giving them sodas, like that kind of thing. Like having that community interaction, it doesn't exist right now. From what I understand, on Monday, when they hit up Old Town on Wall Street, there were 100 protesters. There were about 200, you know, police officers, you know, on Wall Street, like North and Wells.
Okay.
But on 58th, you know, in Lakeshore, no police, and it was just, you know, chaos, right? Like go police the community. Police doesn't necessarily mean arresting people. It means way more than that.
Okay.
I think on both sides.
Yeah.
I think on both sides of that, it's take the blinders off. Take the blinders off in the sense of work within the community. Work with, you know, use your, you know, your aldermen, your pastors, your priests, you know, whatever it is that holds that community. You know, people of business that, you know, that the neighborhood looks up to, and work with them. You know, it's great when a police goes into, you know, into a neighborhood and they do things for one day and the cameras are rolling. But, you know, but everybody knows what's going to happen the next day. Things are going to go back to the way they were before the cameras were rolling, and nobody's going to trust the police again. But, you know, it was great for that one day. So again, accountability and consistency is the key. You know, be consistent. Treat everybody the same. You know, don't automatically assume that because, you know, someone in your neighborhood, you know, lives on a specific block, that, you know, they're automatically either a gangbanger, drug dealer, whatever you want to have them, or and vice versa. Don't automatically assume that just because, you know, that you can go to the police and talk to them as a person. You can go to the police for help. You can't, you know, because, you know, like, you know, oh, well, I went to the police to ask them for help, but, you know, they just took down my name and said they're going to call me back. Nobody ever called me back. You know, things of that nature. It's trust. I mean, there has to be, you know, as the old saying goes, you know, trust takes a lifetime to build and a second to destroy. So the fact that it's, you have to be consistent, you know, show up, you know, take part in your community, you know, be part of that, you know, and use the resources the community has, whether they're limited or excessive, whatever it does to get the job across. And again, you know, work with other people and from other different communities. You know, we implemented this program here, and this is how it helped. Why don't you guys try it, and we'll help you do it. Again, cross training, just like in different jobs, so more people know how to do certain things. And, you know, again, consistency is the key to everything.
So let me chime in real quick.
Yeah.
I have worked with Kat in the past. And we had a community policing officer that worked with us, and he would stop in, just pop up. So there would be days that sometimes he'd be designated to be there, but other days he'd just pop in. And this is one of the rougher areas in the northwest suburbs. But because there was a level of trust built with this officer, there were some individuals that may have had a warrant or may have been wanted for something that we could say, okay, you know what, this person, hey, such and such, gotta go turn yourself in, you know, because it's only gonna make it worse. But because they had that level of trust with the officer and a couple of other officers that stopped down, they were able to say, you know what, I'm okay with that. Or even people wanting to share what's going on in the community. Hey, just so you guys know, down here, this is where the spot is. Contrary to popular belief, the community wants to work with the police officers. Right?
Amen. Amen.
Trust is there in terms of, do you value me as an individual? Do you respect me as a person?
Amen.
And I trust you to be able to help move this forward without judging everybody by this individual.
I think Ken has something to add.
I don't know, Stan. I'm not sure that the communities want to embrace the police officers.
Not right now.
Hey, Stan, here's why I say that. It's this what we have going on now. Is it even because of police officers in the state of Illinois? What has to happen? You have to stop seeing the image of police officers doing just murderous shit. Because we're in Chicago rioting and looting like it happened here. It didn't even happen here. It's just the perception of police officers, period. So even if you don't see it in your community and you see it on TV somewhere else, now you have that perception of the police officer you have in your community.
Well, see,
you like,
I'm gonna
You know.
challenge that. I'll challenge that. The only reason why I say that because I agree with what you're saying, but I'm going to challenge you in that regard. I think even though you're seeing it, it's happening in Minneapolis or Louisville or wherever, because it's something that you have seen in your community or has happened to you, you're able to identify it. So it invokes an emotion or recall, and that's where I say the trauma and the PTSD sometimes has not been addressed. I will share this example with you. I know we want to be mindful of people's time. We got about 10 minutes, but let me just share this example. I was stopped, this was years ago, by South Suburban Police Department. A lady flagged me down in distress. She's like waving her arms, and she's like, "Can you help me? Can you help me?" And I'm like, "What the?" I mean, but she looked like she was like in distress. So I'm a father of 2 daughters.
Mm-hmm.
I have multiple sisters. I also have a mother. I would want someone to be able to help one of my female family members if they were in a time of need. So I said, I rolled down the window. She's like, I'm under the, I forgot what she said, but can you just give me a ride? I live like 3 blocks down from me. I'm like, okay, cool. So I give her a ride, kind of reluctantly, but again, she's just like in distress, and it's like nobody out there. I'm like, okay, cool. About 2 blocks later, police pulled me over, and the officer walks over to the car, and he goes, "Excuse my language, the fuck are you doing over here?" I'm like, "Hey, I came to get some gas. This lady asked me for a ride. She's, look at her, she's distraught. I mean, she's crying, she's tears, like, bullshit. You're buying pussy over here." I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "Fucking bullshit. You're buying pussy." I'm like, "Dude, first of all, I'm thinking myself, I don't have to pay for nothing." But anyway, he goes through this whole rant.
Nice.
And he goes, "I'm searching your car." I'm like, "No, you're not searching my car, because I'm doing things like get out the car." And he just gives me this big, he's just going through it. Like you say, he's drunk with power. He opens up the door, reaches in, opens up my door, and starts unbuckling reaches across me, starts unbuckling my seatbelt. I was like, "Get the fuck out the car." So I get out the car, I'm standing there, and he's like, "You gonna let me search your car?" And I said, "No." He said, "What do you have to hide?" I said, "Nothing to hide, but why do you need to search my car?" He walks back to his police car. I'll never forget, he grabs a blue Ziploc bag full of weed, throws it down by the driver's side door. He said, "Now, you gonna let me search your car? Or am I gonna say that I found this during the search?" At that point, what do I do? Now, for me,
Let them search your car.
I let him search my car. But
You follow the law, you call for a supervisor.
Well, at that point, the supervisor, he's going to back up.
Hey, there ain't no following the law there.
Looking at weed down my word.
Ain't nobody doing that to me.
Joey, I don't have that ability to say no, because it's my word versus his at that point.
I understand. I understand. Nobody's gonna do that to me.
Oh yeah. So at that point, I had to make a business decision. Do I have to? Do I stand my ground? And kind of find out the woman had gotten beat up or something, and she was running from You could either make a stand. You could either make a stand, or do what you think is right, because you're right. Joey, it sounds great. And
it sounds great. I know. I don't know how to deal with that.
But when you're in that situation,
right,
throws it down at your feet.
You got to do to get through it.
And you're saying, "Hey, you know what? It's my word versus his." And as a person of color, I know that the deck is stacked against me. Plus, not to mention, I drive nice vehicles. So the perception will be, you got a nice car. I pulled them over, and wow, look what I found. That right there was something I had to deal with. And I had to deal with the trauma of that situation. I had to deal with every time a police officer pulled behind me, am I going to be stopped? When I lived in Barrington in the northwest suburbs, I'm playing for Harper College. I'm driving a Trans Am. I was stopped by Inverness police 14 times in 10 days. 14, because of that.
Are you serious?
My mother said, "I wish you would have never bought that damn car." I mean, I thought it looked good in it, but again, that's the reality that I had to deal with.
So Stan, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
because I think you said we're running out of time. So what do we do now? Like, what can I do in my little suburban area? And my friends who ask me the same question, like they want to go out and protest, but they're kind of afraid because of what's been happening. So they're sitting there going, we know things have got to change, and we say things have got to change, and we say it all the time to each other, but then we don't do anything because, well, we're here in the suburbs and life goes on, and then we don't think about it again because I don't have to, right? It's not prevalent in my life. So what do I do starting now that I can do to help make change?
So let me start with Joey, because I think Joey's in a similar situation. So Joey, why don't you give Kat some feedback?
So one thing I wanted to point out, I've got my brother and a lot of friends listening right now, and thank you guys for listening. My brother is in a multiracial, LGBTQ relationship with my niece and nephew, and they're awesome. I love them to death, and they're sick and tired of what's going on. And his question about 40 minutes ago was, when everything in society is commodified, looting is a valid form of protest. When access to product is valued more than human life, looting is a way to assert one's voice that they have more value than tangible goods, and so Kat, like, I'll leave that there because that's very, like, it's hard to think about. But what do we do right now? We continue to talk to our friends and family who are probably on the fence because, I don't want to make this a Republican Democrat thing. Like, that's not what I was trying to do by any stretch. But there's a cult of personality that's going on right now. And it's like, let's ignore the facts of really shitty stuff that's going on, and let's just continue to, support the cult leader. So what you do is you say, hey, I love you. Do you really think that this is appropriate? And if you don't, it's okay if you don't. It's also okay if you vote for asshole. I'm going to call him asshole on this podcast. It's okay if you do, but don't be okay with this. This is a absolute injustice for human rights, like, across the board. Like, it's not just George Floyd. It's for every single person that protested. It's every single person on Monday that got tear gassed so that Donald Trump could go to St. John's, and hold up a Bible.
And I think just kind of moving into that space, Kathy, I think some concrete things that you can do: have these truthful conversations with your friends. Let them know, hey, I know you may see it that way. However, I have been in these situations, or I've talked to people and I know people, and this is really what it's like. And get them to understand that their silo, and when I say silo, meaning their community silo, is different from the world that's around them. Challenge them to broaden their perspective, their interactions with people. You mentioned that you're in a predominantly Republican community. So what does that mean? It doesn't mean that you have to go into the west side of Chicago or the south side to interact with people, but maybe having them empathize, sharing some of those stories of success. Because everything that happens in the city or with urban individuals, people of color, minorities, law enforcement, everything isn't doom and gloom. Share some of those success stories. Say, hey, you know what? Yeah, this is a problem that I saw. This is a problem that I interacted with or that I dealt with.
Yep.
But here's how we were able to overcome it. So this way, they're able to see that there is hope. There is a light. That it's not just doom and gloom, and we're just going to leave it there and wait for the next shoe to drop a year from now, 5 years from now, a month from now, when the next person is killed. Have those uncomfortable dialogues. And I would challenge anyone that has friends that are not minorities. Don't allow them to minimize the struggles of minorities, and don't allow them to make and have racial jokes and racial stereotypes be the norm in your subgroup. That's one of the biggest things that I see. And I tell my friends now, don't tell me black jokes. I don't play that shit.
Stan, I'm victim of that. And, I have been for, 20 plus years. Right now, it's not appropriate, like you know me very well, or at least well enough to know that I'm a downright decent human being. But I thought it's not appropriate anymore. Like it sucks. We're perpetuating a narrative in America that isn't the America that I want to live in. I don't want to live in the America with you.
Yeah. And so to that
luckily, I don't have a lot of people in my life that tell jokes like that, or in fact, most of the people in my life are the ones that are saying, what do we do? How do we help? Those are my friends, because I don't associate with a lot of people who aren't those types of people. So luckily, that's the case. But I just feel like I'm kind of out here talking, but not doing.
So doing, hard ask. Here's my hard ask of you. Because you can reach a demographic in a different way that I cannot.
Yeah, tell me what to do.
Hold them accountable. Don't allow them to perpetuate those stereotypical things, because that says something about them, but then also their relationship with you, if they feel that comfortable enough that they can say those things in front of you. Let them know that you're not cool with that, or that you're not comfortable with that. When they bring up these stereotypical things, counter them with positives. Well, that may be what it was like on TV, but let me tell you about the experience I had when I worked in XYZ, or when my friends, this person, blah, blah, blah. So be able to counter those points, so they're able to see beyond just what they see on social media or in the media, things like that. Also, get involved. Get them out to some of those community events. Let them see that there's positive activities going on, that there are positive people that, they may see people walking by with their pants sagging down. There's a stereotype, but that same person with his pants hanging down is also helping with the community service event. So put them in contact with positive people, so it broaden their horizon. Because again, if you work and you live in your community silo, that's all that you know. And you're only going to be able to see what is given to you, what's fed to you, versus if there's somebody that you have a relationship like you guys do with your friends, and be able to trust and be able to have those conversations and dialogue, it will help change the narrative. But it has to start with individual. You can't let the narrative in the heart. You have to be able to have a conversation.
No, for sure. Can I make a request before this is all over?
Sure. We got about 2 minutes. I want to hear Joey, we've got 2 minutes. I want to hear from Ken and Charlie, but go ahead, just real quick.
No, I'm asking Ken.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Ken, based on what Stan just said, I did grow up in the South. I did grow up this kind of way, I've said some shit that I shouldn't have said. But
at least you said some shit you shouldn't have said.
But I truly, I have love for everybody. I honestly do. I mean, I'm not any better than anybody else. I fucked up more than probably anybody I know. And luckily, I'm still around, right?
Okay.
Aside from just being open and honest and respectful, what do we need to do to get some help here?
Joey, it's simple. It's simple, Joey. Man, like I told some friends of mine, my brother is in an interracial relationship. His living girlfriend's wife. Just be a decent human being. Man.
Yep.
That's all this is about.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And it's not about black, brown, or whatever. I have friends of all colors. I play ball with. I've met interesting people from different countries. I'm all about people with good energy and being a decent human being. That's all you can ask of anybody. I don't care about your shortcomings, what you have done, mistakes you have made. Everybody makes mistakes.
Yeah.
But what you can control is being a decent human being. And decent human beings, what we do is, as adults, and as they say, kids are not even raised to be racist. They don't know color. That's something that's instilled.
No,
That's
they
something
don't.
that's instilled in them. Be a decent human being. Man, like I posted on one of my Facebook pages. It has got to the point where I was out running with one of my buddies, and people don't even speak to each other anymore.
Yeah.
They just look at it, just give you a frown. Or look, man, I didn't do nothing to you. You know, where do we go away from just being a decent human being, saying, "Hey, Stan, man, how was your day?" Hey, Joey, how's it going, Joey? Instead of just walking past you, without caring. It's got to be some caring.
Yeah. That's what frightens me. It's like, how did we get away from that? Like, you're a person also. Like, you have a face, you have eyes, you have a mouth.
You know what? That's a whole other conversation that we can delve into in terms of, at one point did we lose our humanity, so to speak?
Right.
Exactly.
So that's another conversation. But before we wrap up, I do want to hear from Charlie. And let me also say this: we've had over 40-something comments of people. I don't know if you guys can see the live stream, but we've had 40-something comments of people that have been chiming in with thoughts and such.
I know.
Want to learn about different events, how can they get involved, supporting some of the solutions that we came up in terms of community and police relations, things like that. So understand that your voices are being heard. I encourage you to share this video to your timeline, let your friends see it, because again, while some of the things are uncomfortable to hear, these are the conversations that we need to have. Let me wrap up with Charlie. I'll give each of you like a minute to wrap up. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. Thank you all for being on the call. Charlie, Ken.
I think Ken said it best. Just be a decent human being.
Okay.
Take the blinders off, have an open mind, just respect, like I said, you ain't got to respect everybody, but at the same time, just, be willing to hear what they got to say. You don't necessarily have to agree with them, but again, just comes back, be a decent human being, pass that down to the next generation, and just, continue, just to be a good person, say hello, please, and thank you, and just be good people. That's it.
I think that's definitely where it starts. I think that's one of the things that sets the foundation to taking some of these action steps.
It's reason I love Stan. Reason I met him. Good guy.
All right.
I'm all right. Yeah.
He's an okay basketball player too. He's all right.
Don't make me bring Big Ken out there. So
from what I,
That's the reason I almost got
from what I hear.
So hey guys,
watch out for the scandals from Memphis.
Hey, I appreciate everybody being on the call, sharing your opinions, sharing your thought. I asked you to share this on your timeline because again, there's some good information, some good dialogue. Again, not an easy conversation to have, but one that needed to be had. And hopefully, as we continue to work through this, as you work through this individually, but then also work through this in your individual communities. And when I say a community, meaning your close circle of friends and family, and then let them take it abroad. This is something that it's not going to change overnight, but it has to start somewhere. I think the country right now is at a crossroads. Where we're able to affect change. So I appreciate everyone being on the call. Everyone stay safe, be blessed. Thank you all.
Absolutely. I applaud what you're doing.
Thank you.
Peace out, Sam.
All right. I'll talk to you guys.